a brief overview to Chapter 1. Chapter 1 is quite brief compared to other chapters, but it provides a good foundation for how to think about social inequality and some of the factors for how we measure social inequality. So, you will learn about social inequality, which is the idea that groups have different access to things such as healthcare, education, jobs, um, communities where they live, even life outcomes. There's much research that shows that the social class you're born into has a great deal of influence on your life outcomes. That is, what you will do in your life, what you will achieve in your life. It doesn't mean that it's set in stone, of course, but it does have a big influence. In addition to that, the social stratification is introduced. Social stratification is probably something that you've all heard about, heard of you have heard of it in other courses perhaps. Social stratification is the idea of a society that is very hierarchical, meaning that there are lots of different layers or steps. You can think of it as a ladder, whereby people are at the bottom who perhaps are living below the poverty line. So people who maybe don't have enough money or resources to have a roof over their heads, to eat 3 meals a day. And then, of course, the working poor, and then the lower um, middle class, the middle class, the upper middle class, and of course the 1%ers, or we could call them the ultra wealthy. The United States, compared to some other countries, is highly stratified. That doesn't mean that all countries are not stratified. Of course they are. We just tend to have a lot more than other comparable westernized countries, such as the United Kingdom, almost all of Northern and Western Europe, Australia, Canada, New Zealand. Those countries are similar in terms of the fact that they are post technological societies, meaning that they have moved beyond the industrialized part of being a society. In fact, we do manufacture here in the United States, but much of what we use in the US is manufactured somewhere else. And so those other countries where most of our things that we use here are manufactured are considered industrializing or middle level countries, whereas we are post-industrialized. We really are focused on technology. Take a look at your Apple phone, your Apple product if you have one. It very clearly says created in California, manufactured in China. So the idea was created here, but it's manufactured somewhere else. So yes, all societies have some stratification, but some more than others. And as I said, the US is probably one of the most highly stratified countries in the world. What kinds of consequences does that have? Well, depending upon which of those layers you're in, you may have access to more resources, more power, more wealth, better opportunities than somebody who is in one of the lower strata of that hierarchy. So if you are upper middle class, you probably are able to go to better schools, you have access to better health care, you're not on Medicare or Medi-Cal where you have to wait around to see if you can get treated. You actually have very good insurance and you can pretty much get treated as quickly as you would like. Not only that, you probably live in a nicer, safer community. I'll leave that up to you to envision. I don't want to put ideas in your head about what that means. I'm sure we all have ideas of what a nicer, better community might be. Um, Less crime, etc. All of these things contribute to people having more access to resources, more privileges, more opportunities, more resources, which then means that their life outcomes will probably be much better than someone who comes from the lower strata. It's not a guarantee, not a guarantee. Being born wealthy or being Making it to the upper middle class or even the one percenters is not a guarantee of anything. I want to make that clear. However, you sure as hell have a lot better start than somebody who is 50 feet back from the starting line when you're right at the starting. In addition, you'll learn about social reproduction, the idea of how society and the different social groups, social classes within society tend to reproduce themselves, hence the term social reproduction. So if you're born into a wealthy family, then that family is able to provide all those resources and opportunities that I talked about previously, so that you will likely have much better outcomes, and then you'll be able to pass that on to your children as well. Whereas people coming from lower income groups, because they have less access, because they have fewer resources available to them, they may not generate the same kinds of successes and opportunities, not only for themselves, but also for their own children, should they have them. And so it's this idea of generational wealth, right? Generational knowledge. You're able to pass on all the wealth, the resources, the knowledge, the ability to network, children and grandchildren, etc. And people who don't have access to that or have much less access are not able to do that. And finally, you'll learn about some of the different kinds of capital that there are in society. There is economic or financial capital, of course, which is dealing with money and income, wealth. That's one kind of capital. It's always handy to have that kind of capital. And of course, there's social capital, which is based on one's status, how much power and privileges you have based on your status and what kinds of opportunities come to you as a result of that social capital. Cultural capital. Cultural capital is knowing, understanding what the society around you expects in terms of proper behavior, being able to move easily out of different social environments, knowing how to dress, how to walk, how to talk for each of these different social environments, which is very helpful, particularly if you're trying to enter a certain profession. And finally, human capital. Human capital is focused on each of us as unique individuals, the kinds of skills, abilities, knowledge that we attain that we're able to utilize in order to live our lives and to succeed. Human capital. So that's it for this chapter overview. I hope that you enjoy learning these foundational ideas, concepts, and I will see you in the next chapter.